Karoline Leavitt is not very good at her job, and anyone who watches this show consistently knows that I have a special little bit of hate in my heart for Karoline Leavitt for that very reason. Of course, MAGA is going to lie. Of course, Donald Trump is going to push false narratives, but at least be good at it. And they're clearly not. So much so that Karoline Leavitt just got Donald Trump and herself into some legal trouble with the threats that they are making against judges. And we are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into what Karoline Leavitt said to have some legal blowback to her unhinged attack, we have to start with what Donald Trump is saying to spur her on, and that's his defiance of the Supreme Court right here.
Obviously, you've had a back and forth with the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court directed your administration to facilitate the return. You've talked about this in the past, of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from a prison in El Salvador, whose deportation your administration called an administrative error. You said in a recent interview you could bring him back, but you won't. Are you defying the Supreme Court, sir?
No, I'm relying on the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's very capable, doing a great job, because I'm not involved in the legality or the illegality. I have lawyers to do that, and that's why I have a great DOJ. We have a great one. We had a very corrupt one before. Now we have a great one. And they're not viewing the decision the way you said it. They don't view it that way at all. They think it's a totally different decision.
Donald Trump does the thing that all these podcasters and people in right-wing media also do, which is whenever a point comes up about the illegality of what he's doing and he wants to not respond to it, he just goes, well, I'm not a lawyer. But whenever Donald Trump wants to impose some illegal plot, he just says, well, I can do that. Like he has the authority of a legal expert speaking on it, and his defiance of the Supreme Court is exactly that. He says he can do whatever he wants, and when he's challenged, he says, well, I don't know. I don't even know why you're pushing back against me. But that's kind of the whole point. He wants to keep it in the gray area because that's the goal at the end of the day, is for Donald Trump to just have all of the power. And so if he's kind of contending, but not really, it allows him to do so. And we saw that same kind of gray area shtick from MAGA when Karoline Leavitt was asked about arresting a certain group of Supreme Court justices.
Peter, which, by the way, is why we've made many changes to this briefing room in this White House. It's long overdue. Peter, go ahead.
Thank you. A few things. You guys arrested a Milwaukee County circuit judge for allegedly helping illegal immigrants get away. As you guys look at other judges, would you ever arrest somebody higher up on the judicial food chain, like a federal judge or even a Supreme Court justice?
Well, that's a hypothetical question. Again, I defer you to the Department of Justice for individuals that they are looking at or individual cases. But let's be clear about what this judge did. She obstructed federal law enforcement who were looking for an illegal alien in her courthouse. She showed that illegal alien the door to evade law enforcement officials. That is a clear-cut case of obstruction. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand that. And so anyone who is breaking the law or obstructing federal law enforcement officials from doing their jobs is putting themselves at risk of being prosecuted. Absolutely.
You guys have...
Karoline, the answer was no. You're supposed to say no. You need to follow up. You need to ask someone. You're going to pass that along to the DOJ. Will Donald Trump be arresting Supreme Court justices? The answer should just be no. All you should have to say is no. How are we in a place when the answer to that question isn't just no? And who are the Supreme Court justices that you're going to be arresting? It seems like, given the MAGA reaction to her, it might be what? Amy Coney Barrett, who Donald Trump appointed, or John Roberts, not conservative enough for you? It is absolute insanity. And Karoline Leavitt's statement, that direct statement for her, led to an amendment in Congress being put forward by Jared Moskowitz to combat this assault on our judiciary. And he had a lot to say, breaking it down right here.
Explain his amendment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Fox News asked the White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, the other day, would the president ever arrest a Supreme Court justice? Seems a pretty straightforward answer. She could have just said no, but she didn't answer the question. She left the door open. So I thought that this would be an opportunity for some bipartisanship to close the door on that possible question. And so I wrote a very simple amendment, Mr. Chairman. It reads, no funds made available in this title may be used for the arrest, detention, or criminal prosecution of any Supreme Court justice on the basis that that justice has ruled against the executive branch in any case or controversy before the justice. So it doesn't say if they committed a crime, because no one's above the law, of course. It just says they won't be arrested if they rule against the administration. This should seem to be very simple. It seemed to be you should want to take it, be clear. Karoline Leavitt couldn't be. This is your opportunity to clear that up, that we're not going to arrest, Justice Thomas, even though he goes on planes and does stuff with Ginny, right? But we're not going to arrest him, right? We're not going to go arrest him. You should want to vote for that, right? He goes on yachts and, does all, we're not going to arrest him, right? Because we want to make sure that it's clear. So I just figured I'd give you the opportunity, Mr. Chairman. That's the amendment.
Question occurs on the amendment. Gentlemen.
So you could see after Jared Moskowitz introduced that amendment, Jim Jordan kind of laughed it off. He's like, that's funny. But it's serious. I don't know why you're laughing. He's arresting judges. He's threatening to send them to Alcatraz. As we've covered in a previous video, corruption, criminality, that's nothing new to this administration. So no, Jim Jordan, it's not a joke, as Karoline Leavitt and Donald Trump have made very clear. And the fact that we have to introduce legislation to stop Donald Trump from arresting the people he appointed to the Supreme Court, I can't even compartmentalize that. That is the point that we're at in this administration. But the criminality and the corruption run rampant. And one example that the media isn't covering nearly enough, I want to talk about because we just need to get more attention on it. Trump crypto corruption intensifies as Abu Dhabi firm invests $2 billion. Senator Chris Murphy called the president's crypto scheming the biggest corruption scandal in the history of the American presidency. Donald Trump and his family continue to cash in on cryptocurrencies from entities looking to curry influence with the president and his administration, which is simultaneously working to deregulate the industry. At a crypto conference in the United Arab Emirates, Eric Trump and Zach Witkoff, son of Steve Witkoff, announced that the Trump's family stablecoin, World Liberty Financial's USD1, will be the vehicle for the state-backed Emirati investment firm MGX to invest $2 billion into Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange. The transaction comes with a host of ethical baggage. For starters, World Liberty Financial, a decentralized exchange inspired by Donald Trump, is co-created and managed by the Trump's family, as well as that of Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, who has been functioning like a shadow Secretary of State, and will now have direct financial ties to Binance, which in November 2023 pleaded guilty to financial crimes including money laundering, sanctions violations, and unlicensed operations. The exchange was slapped with heavy restrictions on operations within the United States. On top of that, the transactions involves a foreign government with clear political interest in the U.S., much like Trump used his hotels as vehicles for foreign entities to court favor with his presidency. The signal being broadcast by World Liberty Financial is that the Trumps are open to investment. So there are so many crypto scams happening in this administration. It's hard to understand them all. But what the important point to take away here is that not only does the investment into Trump's crypto schemes in his stable coins, and stable coins are a form of cryptocurrency backed by the US dollar, so they're more easily traded by criminals and people looking to keep all of their transactions off of the books. But the reason that you see this investment isn't just because it pumps up the value of Donald Trump's meme coin. The stable coin is intended to stay stable. But the reason that they're purchasing that in mass amounts is because Donald Trump and his family get a transaction fee when the stable coin is purchased. So it is a direct investment in Donald Trump. He is cashing out on every dollar of coin that is purchased. He is making hundreds of millions of dollars, and all of his other meme coins are going up because of that, generating even more money, which he also gets transaction fees on. This is a direct line to bribe Donald Trump, and is not just the only example, because as that article stated, Senator Chris Murphy is one of the only people talking about this, and he was calling Trump out on the Senate right here.
On April 23rd, a message appears on the homepage of the website for Trump's meme coin declaring that the top 220 meme coin holders would be invited for an exclusive dinner with Trump, and the top 25 coin holders, these are private investors in Donald Trump's financial empire, would get a special VIP tour of the White House. After the message went up, the price of Trump's coin jumped by more than 50%. In the 2 days following the announcement of the special VIP tour in the People's House, the White House, Trump and his allies made nearly $1 million in trading fees alone. They are just selling access to the White House out in the open. April 26th, Trump's family, this is just last weekend, announces the launch of a private club called the Executive Branch, a new private club in Washington. The initiation fee is around $500,000. It is advertised as a place where you can hold secret audiences with the Trump administration as long as you pay Donald Trump's family and their financial backers over $500,000 in membership fees. It is apparently already sold out. This is not normal. None of this is normal. This is outlandish. This is illegal. This is unconstitutional, brazen corruption. And this is only the first 100 days. I just detailed 40 instances of mind-blowing corruption in just 40 days, capped off by an attempt to just sell access to the White House to people who put money in the pocket of Donald Trump's personal businesses. Donald Trump wants to numb this country into believing that this is just how government works, that he's owed this, that every president is owed this, that government has always been corrupt and he's just doing it out in the open. But this is not how government works. This has been the story of his first 100 days, but it's our choice as a nation to allow it to be the story of the rest of his term. We need to expose what he is doing. We need to rally everybody from the left to the right. Nobody in this country, whether you are a hardened conservative or a hardened progressive, should root for the President of the United States to be enriching himself off of this position. We need to rally this nation against this corruption and bring it to an end.
I cannot believe there is not more attention on all of this. It is insanity. Donald Trump is selling direct access via a crypto scam, a dinner for those involved in his crypto scam, and a members-only club in Washington, D.C., run by his sons. It is like, I cannot believe this doesn't get more coverage. I want to be talking about this more on the show because this corruption would be the biggest scandal in the history of politics if Donald Trump did not exist and was simultaneously involved in 15 other scandals. But this needs attention because of how direct and open it is. And Steve Witkoff's influence because of his son's involvement will only make it that much clearer that the world is very, very able to buy Donald Trump. That is terrifying. We're calling it out every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.